Hello and welcome. This is our T-Sport Bernau race trucks cab. We're going to show you around from some of the systems that we have in here and how everything works and how much the driver has to do within or during the race and how much he can change to maybe improve, or if the conditions change, what he can change to keep up with the speed. So then it's a standard H-pattern gearbox. It's not an automatic, so it's 4/4 with a split, which means you have one small, one big, two small, blah, 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 all the way to 4. And then when you get to 4, you then go to neutral, and then we have a switch here, which then puts it in the larger gearbox, and then you go 5 small, 5 big, 6, 7, 8. So this is because it's a standard sort of 16-speed gearbox. We have to keep all the gears in for the regulations, but during a race we normally go just from 7 big to 8 big, and that's all, because there's that much power and because there's a rolling start at the start of each race, so we're always driving above 70k. And if you're in 7 big, 70k, it's no problem for the power of this engine. Then we have all of the sort of water control, because obviously we spray water onto into the vents of the disc and onto the intercooler. So we have the air on, which is we use compressed air to charge the system, and then we have for the radiator, this is like an emergency if we're in traffic and the engine temperature goes too high, you can put this one on. The intercooler one we run generally all of the time, to keep the inlet temperature down, which is more density, more power. And then the brake water, we have it on a switch, and then we have 2 regulators here where we can adjust the pressure. And with the pressure you see on these 2 dials, so front and rear, but then we have a telemetry system which you can see the temperatures. So we are in lovely warm condition today while we're traveling, so you can actually see it's around 21, 22 degrees, and the driver will always watch this. During qualifying, it makes no sense to always have the water running, because when you use the water you're a lot slower, so we have on the steering wheel a switch where we can also squirt water when the driver wants and when he sees it on the display. Also on this display we have oil pressure, boost pressure, which is very important, but also lap times, predictive lap times, and how much quicker and slower that lap was to the previous one. There's a few other screens, and there's oil temperature, water temperature, but generally we can change between screens from qualifying to a race. And there's different information on different screens, and also there's a screen for the start, so when we're doing the rolling start at 70k, the driver or Antonio will actually left foot brake, right foot full power, get the boost pressure up, and then for the start the chief mechanic from each team is on the radio, and he will then give the driver the go signal, because if you're in traffic you sometimes might not be able to see the lights when they go green, so then the engineer gives them the green signal, and this screen will actually, when you've got the optimal boost pressure and speed, it will go fully green, and therefore you are at the best situation for the start. Ready. Then for the brakes we have 2 regulators. These regulators are for the brake pressure, so generally we set them at the start of each day and we adjust them ever so slightly. But for example, if it starts to rain, we will actually reduce the brake pressures to stop the wheels from locking. And you can also see the brake pressures on a dial here, and therefore it's it's like a double safety to make sure they're working, but also a few other bits and pieces to sort of systems check for also the mechanics to check that the pressures are reading correctly. Then we have the two, or the tank pressures. These are for the air system, because we're still running full air brakes and air systems for like say for the water, for the clutch. So when these start to drop down below 7-8 bar, then you know there's a problem with the compressor or with the charging system itself, which is near enough identical to a standard truck, how it would work. Also, we have a rain light, so if it's wet we have to run a rain light, which is on a flash, which is the same as Formula 1. Screen heat radio. The radio for the start is solid mounted, and then Antonio has a plug on his helmet where it has microphone and 2 speakers, so he can talk to us, say if there's any problems. Then we can also send him some information, so in qualifying we tell him the lap times, tell him what the distance to the next driver is, and what else is there? Speed control, because obviously we are limited to 160k, and this is 160.0. So if we go one time over in a race, we get a penalty, and that's 0.1k for 0.2 of a second. That's how finely controlled it is via GPS. If it's more than once in a race, we get a time penalty and a financial penalty. And if we're always overspeeding, then eventually we'll get kicked out of the race or the qualifying session. So we're always on the limit, because if you're a little bit slower, then you're losing time on the straight, and because there's that much power in these trucks, you're more on the limiter than you would think. So on a standard straight, you may be 6 seconds on the speed limiter, and if you're losing 0.2 of a second, 2.2 of a k, you really start to lose a lot of time through each lap. So that's why we play so closely with it. Then we also have a rear view camera, plus the mirrors obviously, but the rear view camera, this is from Motec. It's like real high quality, high definition camera system, and we have to run these for the regulations, because obviously there's a lot of truck behind you that you don't necessarily see in the wing mirrors. So also it helps for if somebody maybe behind makes a mistake with the brakes, that you can see what side they're either crashing into you or crashing into a wall, so there's a bit more safety with the camera system. And obviously this camera system, if it gets a bit dirty throughout the race from all the water spraying and maybe the diesel soot or the smoke coming up a little bit from the brakes and everything, and it sort of focuses on infinity, so it's always, you can always see something through the camera. So that's one reason why we love working with this camera system. Handbrake, standard truck handbrake, so it's on or off. Hopefully it's always off. Then indicator stalk and the wipers are all so the driver can reach it very quickly and easily. We do actually, on a standard truck, the range or the high and low gearbox is normally on the gear knob, but because you can knock it very easily, we always move it away, because if you're going 160k and you knock it into 4th rather than 8th, you'll explode everything. So probably the back axle, gearbox for sure, engine definitely won't like it. So that's why we move this to the side, is generally for safety. Then all the crazy hooks, this is for the helmet after the race, and then we have another one for the steering wheel, so it's easier to get out. And then obviously you see the 3 pedals. This is only for a driver support. Then you have the clutch, the brake and the throttle. The reason why the brake's so wide is we have the steering system running through the centre of your legs, and it's so you can access the pedal with both feet. So for the start, left foot braking on the throttle, and then throughout the race you can use your right foot or you can use your left foot. So it's all very safe. And not normally the steering shaft, it's quite strange where it runs through the centre of your legs, but this is also a safety feature with the race trucks. So if you're in a head-on crash, the steering should always work because the steering's not in the crumple zone, so we move it inboard for to take it out of harm's way. So this is one reason why we run this system through the legs. And obviously there's a limit of how close to the pedals you can go to be able to still reach them, and how far back to hitting the knees. So it's quite similar to a go-kart. If you've ever been go-karting, you normally end up with bruises on your knees from the steering shaft or from the fuel tank, so we try and keep everything away from them. And we have a big roll cage. This is 70mm by 2.5 wall, so really strong, heavy duty. Obviously we need it for the safety, and this is the design is made for us by the FIA, so we have to adhere to their drawings, and we have to make it exactly how they want it. All the wiring is done in-house, and we try to stay with the sort of analog wiring rather than CAN bus system. This is for fault finding and for ease of use, and so we try not to make things over complicated if they don't need to be. So if we're racing and say a switch fails, we can see directly, or we can check directly with the voltmeter why it's failed, where the problem is, and fault find it back. Whereas if it's on like a CAN bus system, you need a computer, you need to understand how all the systems work, and you can lose hours if you're not 100% clued up on it. And I don't know, I prefer some things. I prefer old school. And for the seat, it's obviously full FIA homologated race seat. Said that right, hopefully. This is made for us by Motor Drive Seats, which is in Leyland, Lancashire, so just down the road from the workshop. Then we have the full 6-point harness. These straps are a bit narrower than what you'd see on track day cars. This is for the hands device that Antonio would normally wear, and this is if he's in a crash, to stop the stress on the neck. It takes some of the weight away from the helmet and the head for safety. This one's full carbon fibre with the foam on the outside. The passenger one we only have for if we do guest events or VIP driving or taxi drives, as some people call them. So during a race weekend, we'll take that out because it's only extra weight. So therefore it's a lot more emptier in here. We try and keep the weight as low as possible. And then the windows, they're a sort of polycarbonate Lexan rather than Perspex, and then the front windscreen is still the standard glass screen. This is also due to regulations. Also, you can see on the back panel all the unnecessary weight or needed weight is all cut out, so the actual cab with everything in it, as you can see now, is actually lighter than a standard cab with no interior. So we cut literally that much weight out of it. Then we have a full telemetry system. The telemetry system can see all the inputs, so steering angle, throttle percentage, brake pressure, damper stroke. So if we have a problem through the race, we can actually see where the problem's coming from. Also, the brake temperatures are all recorded as well, so we can go through all them. So there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of work for each member of the team. So we have Gusto, who's a full data engineer. He helps us out, and he'll sit down with Antonio for a few hours after each race and go through everything. So from that side, it's really good that we can check everything. Anything else, Mel? We're all good. Mel's happy. So hopefully everything will go okay in Hungaroring next week. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully bring you some more videos. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.